right, hi everyone. This is Peter from Franca de la Fuente, Abogados, and joining me today is Keith from Target Property Spain.
Hi Peter, thanks for having me.
Well, welcome. And today we are talking again. We are doing the country files. Of course, the purpose of this is to get to know the traditions and the process of buying a property in different countries. And now we're doing UK to compare it to Spain to better understand the UK buyers. That's why I wanted to have you on, Keith, because I know. Well, first of all, you tell us a little bit about yourself and your experience here on the coast.
Okay, well, I've been here on the coast for 20 years. I had a full head of hair when I got here, believe it or not. Then I started selling property and it fell out instantly.
Yeah.
No, but jokes aside, so I run Target Property Spain. We're based in Mijas Costa. We tend to focus on that area. So rather than explore the whole coast, we like to know the area we're looking at inside out and specialise in that area. And historically, most of our clients we're British run, so most of our clients have been British and Irish, at least English-speaking clients. That's probably changing a little bit now. We're starting to see more multinational clients, but the lion's share of our client base is still from the UK.
But it means at least that you have consulted quite a few UK buyers then throughout the years then.
Absolutely, yeah.
Yeah, all right. So let's start then with the UK perspective. And well, first of all, we discussed when we did the Swedish country files about the availability of information in Sweden compared to Spain. And what I mean with the information is, of course, prices and the information that you as a buyer have available in the UK. So can you tell us something about that?
Yeah, well, the information available to the buyer, to the consumer in the UK is a lot more broad than what's available here in Spain. I mean, any buyer can go online onto most of the property portals and look at prices properties have sold for in recent years. The land registry offers that as well as public information. Whereas here in Spain, the buyers don't have that information.
Yeah.
So buyers in Spain are kind of limited at looking for advertised prices, which is a bit of a false economy because you're not actually seeing what a property is sold for. You're seeing the advertised sale price.
Yeah.
So I think buyers in the UK have a lot more hard facts at their disposal.
Yeah. So the behavior of a UK buyer, let's assume that they are interested in a certain area of London, let's say.
Okay.
So how would they then start their process if they want to look for certain properties? Do they engage with their own private broker, like as a consultant, or they go straight to the properties? Or
that's a key difference. I think if you're looking to buy a property in a city like London, and you've picked your area of London, it's because you've researched that area. So if you've got children, you know what the schools are, you know what the transport links are, and you're familiar with that area. Whereas a lot of the time when people are looking to buy a property on the Costa del Sol, they're just looking for whether it's a second home or a permanent residence. They're looking to live somewhere hot.
Yeah.
So the first part of the agent's job here in Spain is really to drill down and find what area is going to work better for them. And that can be quite a lengthy process. You know, that can take 3-4 days or even a week until you've actually found the right area before you start drilling down to look for properties. Whereas again in the UK, once they walk into that agent's office, it's normally because they know that's where they want to be.
Yeah.
But there's big differences in the way the agencies work. Normally in the UK, an agent will have exclusivity on the listing. So a buyer will walk into that agent's office and explain their requirements, and that agent may have 5, 6, 7 properties that may suit. And the agent may well know that their competitor around the corner has the ideal property for them, and they're praying they don't walk into an office.
Yeah.
Whereas here, because all the established agents share our listings, it's more of a consultative process here, rather than trying to sell them. And quite often that, selling them can involve trying to ram a square peg into a round hole. It's more consultative. We're more of a property finder here. So we can go out and give that client whole of market choice.
Mm.
And it works well for the buyer because it means they've only got one point of contact here.
Yeah.
You know, once they've found an agent that truly understands what they're trying to achieve, they don't need to make numerous phone calls and numerous appointments with numerous agents. They can have that one point of contact to do it all for them.
And on the availability of information, so we're talking again about the UK buyer. They know the area. They enter into the office of a certain agency. They have a few properties that might be interesting for them, but they also know the prices, right?
Absolutely.
On this in that area, in a particular street. So knowledge is power, I guess. And when you're working with the UK buyers then here in Spain, do they know, or do they assume that the information is just as available as it is in the UK, or transparent?
They do, and they're often quite surprised when we explain it's not. And that's when it really comes down to your agent having the product knowledge, you know, being able to confidently say, this is the best option for you and the best value at the moment in the given market. I mean, you know, it's interesting because let's say I have a client at a particular price point for a villa, for example. Even though I've got access to probably over 20,000 properties on the database, in my head, I've probably only got 5 or 6 that are worth showing because they're the cream of the crop. They're the best value at any one given time. And once they sell, then something else takes its place. But without that product knowledge, you're kind of lost.
And I don't know, of course, it can be similar in certain areas in UK, of course, that you have in the same area from one block to another, big differences in prices. But I would expect that there are bigger differences in prices in a smaller area here, of course, than let's say compared in the UK.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, when clients come to me, sometimes they have this euros per square meter in their head, and they're trying to assess everything on this particular set of values. And it's not so important here because you can have 2 identically sized properties. One could be facing east and one could be facing southwest. One can have views of the block next door, and one can have sea views, which people put a lot of value on here. You know, normally one of the first things we get asked for is sea view. So square meters aren't so important here when you're looking at price.
It's Swedish buyer are, I would say, the same. They're very focused on square meter price. And that is also a little bit of a tricky thing because, of course, we have different categories of square meters in Spain. You have the built space, you have the total, etc. So I guess you have to explain that to UK buyers also.
Quite often we say, look, trust your agents, forget about what you're looking at on paper in terms of square meters, and let your agent guide you, because sometimes you can look at a property that on paper looks small, but once you're inside it, it's actually rather spacious. And that would depend on how the agents described it. You know, have they included the terrace space within the square meterage, or is it additional? Have they gone off the plans, or have they measured internally? Because we build here with thick cavity walls, so there can be a big difference between exterior and interior square meters.
And we know also by now we have drafted the country files report of UK that we will have available on the website soon, that the activity as such, if you're a broker in the UK, you don't need a license to perform that activity, but the company itself that performs the activity, they need to be regulated somehow. That's correct? Yeah. So the role here in Spain for the individual is similar to in the UK then.
Well, for an agent here to get started, they don't need to be regulated, and they don't even need a premises to work from. You have a lot of agents working from their bedroom. I mean, I for one, and I know a lot of my colleagues that we collaborate with feel the same way. We are very keen for the industry here to be regulated, or at least there to be some kind of an exam to pass, because we're advising people on large transactions. You know, they're spending hundreds of thousands, if not millions of euros on the property purchase. So I think we need to take some kind of responsibility for that.
I'm sure that's a topic we can discuss again.
For hours,
Yes. Well, but let's go back to the let's say the process in the UK. So this particular buyer then that we imagine now, interested in a specific area in London. They enter to maybe a few different real estate agency offices. They find their property and they agree on the price. Here in Spain, of course, we have or at least in Andalucia, we have the tradition of the deposit contract. They have the arras contract, and then we sign at the notary. How would you describe the process in the UK?
Well, very, very different. They don't have the concept of arras. So from agreeing the offer up until the point where they sign contracts and get locked in, that can be quite a lengthy period of time. Whereas here, as you know, from the initial deposit to arras, it can be as quick as 2 weeks.
Yes.
And just to clarify that, so in Spain, once you signed arras, both sides are locked in. There's normally a 10% deposit on that contract. And if either side walks away, if the buyer walks away, he loses his 10%. If the vendor walks away, the 10% is returned to the buyer with 10% compensation. So both sides are secure and locked in. We don't have that in the UK. We have a concept which is called gazumping in the UK, which is basically when an offer's been agreed and a third party comes along with a better offer. That doesn't once you've gone to arras here, that doesn't happen. And most UK clients, when I'm explaining this to them, remark on what a great system we have here. Because from getting your offer agreed and your initial deposit to 2 weeks later getting arras signed, everybody can sit back and relax and just wait for completion.
Yes. And I guess you might have seen then, you have had clients that needed to sell something in the UK to be able to buy something here in Spain. And that, of course, the transaction in the UK can affect the chances of having the money ready for the purchase here.
Absolutely. I mean, we always suggest to a UK client, if they've just agreed their property sale in the UK, but they haven't gone to contract yet, we say, look, you're not really in a position here to buy. Because if you're dependent on that house sale in the UK going through, you have the risk of losing your 10% here. If something happens to your UK sale and you've already gone to 10% here, you're going to lose your money. So always better to be in that position in the UK where you've gone to contract and you know the sale is secure before risking any funds here.
And the concept of the deposit contract must be something absolutely unheard of then, I guess, for UK buyers. So that's something you need to, I guess, explain as well, the concept of the deposit contract.
But it's a nice thing to explain, because when we do explain how it protects both sides, UK buyers are normally very pleasantly surprised to hear that.
So they actually then maybe find the Spanish purchase process more secure,
absolutely,
and easier.
Yep.
And then compared to the UK,
absolutely, yep. Yeah.
But the concept of the role of the agent is different. So you need to explain that, I guess, in the beginning. Or do you feel you usually go through the full process with your new clients for them to fully understand the differences in Spain compared to the UK?
From the beginning all the way through to sale and after sale as well, because at the end of the day, these are clients that are not residents here, aren't familiar with the territory or the language, and they often need help after the sale as well. And it often gets remarked upon how different the estate agent's role is here to the UK, because in the UK, they show you the property, they wait for completion, they sit back and take their commission and the job's done. Whereas here, we tend to have, I think, form a more personal relationship with those clients and answer a lot of questions for them that maybe aren't related to the transaction.
One other thing that I noticed when I've spoken to a few professionals that also been working on the UK market is the matter of financing. So here in Spain, if you want to finance your purchase through a mortgage, it should be done at the purchase step, because refinancing is very difficult in Spain. Well, you can do it if you want to improve your property, rebuild it, etc. But refinancing in the UK is a quite common thing.
Absolutely, yeah. People will, a lot of our buyers will be financing their purchase here by taking equity out of their UK property. And they're often quite surprised to find that concept doesn't exist in Spain, as you said, unless they're looking to make improvements on the property.
Yeah. All right. Thanks, Keith. Anything else that you want to highlight when it comes to the differences that you have experienced and how to, in the best possible way, explain the differences to your UK buyers?
I guess there's a few other differences. In the UK, the buyers will largely rely on a solicitor for all of the legal aspects of the transaction. Whereas here, as you know, they don't need to use a lawyer, but we always suggest they do, unless they've got a very, very good grasp of Spanish and the conveyancing system here. We always suggest that they do. But everything here goes through a lawyer and then obviously gets signed off at notary, which is quite a new concept.
Yes.
For UK buyers.
Yes.
I know a lot of other European countries have the concept of notaries, but the UK don't.
No, that's right. And we, as a matter of fact, they often mix up our office with the notary's office. So we need to explain to them very clearly that even though we are signing the power of attorney, we're signing it in front of the notary because they have to sign off on it. Yeah. We have the acta for the mortgages that needs to be signed in front of the notary, and of course the completion and the escritura itself. So it's compared to the Swedish system, I think that's a clear difference between.
And you mentioned
UK.
Power of attorney. A lot of UK buyers, the concept of power of attorney will be new to them.
Yes.
But we always advise all of our buyers here to give power of attorney to their lawyer, because otherwise they're going to have to make unnecessary trips here.
Yeah.
To carry out activities which their lawyer could do for them with power of attorney.
Yeah.
And it's hours of their life they're never going to get back if they have to do that.
That's right. No, and the power of attorneys here in Spain, they're usually quite broad in the application because we as lawyers, we need to help them with many different things. Not only the actual signature of the title deed, but it's opening of bank accounts and the supplies for water, electricity, etc. And at least in Sweden, a power of attorney is usually quite short, specific. Yeah. But here it's 10 to 12 pages. So it can be sometimes it's important for us to, even before they come to the notary's office, to explain to them that you will be signing quite a large document. We will go through that in detail. Yeah. Because it's quite different. Yeah, that's right.
It's interesting you say that because recently I see more and more power of attorneys being drawn up, giving the lawyer power to buy or sell. Whereas back in the day, it used to be just to buy. And quite often we will have a seller approach us who thinks they have power of attorney, thinks they've given their lawyer power of attorney to sell. And it turns out they haven't. They only had the power of attorney to buy.
Well, it's the instructions that you give, from the office to the notary. And of course, then we have to sit down and discuss with the client. And they remove faculties from the power of attorney if they don't need them or if they don't feel comfortable having them. But as a lawyer, we can't act in any way without a clear instruction. So we have the power of attorney as a tool, but we also need the instruction to do anything actually.
And of course, to do that here is a relatively cheap and easy process. Whereas if your buyer doesn't do it while they're here and goes back to the UK or wherever they live to do it, it's a more costly and lengthier process.
It is. So we if it's possible, we advise the clients to take the time to sign a power of attorney. But it can be busy days, a lot of units, etc. I guess you know. All right, Keith. Well, thank you very much for giving us an additional perspective from the UK buyers. Much appreciated.
Thank you for having me on this lovely Friday morning.
Yeah, nice day. Have a good weekend.
And you as well. Thanks a lot.
Thank you.